Why are there equity traps in education, and how can schools fix them? Imagine walking into a school and feeling like the odds are already stacked against you before you even start. That's what equity traps create, hidden barriers that keep some students from getting fair chances. These traps are patterns of thinking and actions that unintentionally block progress toward fairness in education. They often affect students from marginalized groups, including those with disabilities. One common trap is called deficit thinking. This is when educators see students or families mainly through what they lack instead of their strengths. For example, assuming a student isn't motivated because they don't perform well, without considering if the teaching methods or classroom environment are engaging enough. This mindset ignores the systemic issues that might be holding students back. Another trap is blaming families or students for their outcomes. Schools might think that if students aren't succeeding, it's their fault or their family's responsibility. But this overlooks how schools might not be providing enough resources, culturally responsive teaching, or accessible facilities. It creates a divide that makes it harder to work together for student success. Normalizing inequalities is also a trap. When disparities are seen as normal or unavoidable because of poverty or language differences, schools stop trying to fix them. This attitude can lead to accepting gaps instead of actively working to close them. Avoiding systemic responsibility is another issue. Schools sometimes focus only on individual behaviors or compliance, ignoring how policies, funding, and organizational practices contribute to unfair outcomes. This keeps the focus narrow and prevents real change. So how can schools break free from these traps? First, they need to shift from thinking about what students lack to recognizing what they bring. Valuing students, cultural backgrounds, languages, and community strengths helps create a more positive environment. Building genuine relationships with families and communities is key to understanding their perspectives and resources. Next, educators should reflect on their own biases and assumptions. Asking questions like, "Am I treating all students fairly?" can help uncover unconscious beliefs that influence decisions. Schools can also create true partnerships with families by involving them in decision-making and goal-setting. This might mean holding meetings where students, families, and teachers plan together. Reviewing and changing policies is essential. Schools should look at their rules and practices to find and remove barriers that unfairly impact students with disabilities or from marginalized backgrounds. Providing ongoing professional development helps staff recognize equity traps and learn ways to foster inclusive classrooms. Finally, analyzing student data with an equity lens helps identify patterns that point to systemic issues. Instead of blaming students, schools can look at what changes are needed in the environment or resources. By actively working to recognize and fix these equity traps, schools can create a fairer, more supportive learning space for every student. This approach ensures that students with disabilities receive the services and respect they deserve, making education truly accessible and just for all.